What do I need to have in my life? What are my goals? What are the things that I'd really like to have? And it took me a long time to realise that actually I only wanted one thing. And I think it's the same thing we all want, which is simply to be happy. Hi, I'm Liam Naden, and welcome to my podcast, Let Yourself Off the Hook. As someone who has studied success for decades, I have found the formula for achieving your dreams and goals. And it's all to do with how you use your brain. Each week on my show, I will provide you with the tools, resources, and expertise to utilize your brain to its ultimate potential and remove the barriers to your success. And as you'll discover, true success in every area of your life only comes when you let yourself off the hook. As I was thinking about a topic for this week's podcast episode, it occurred to me, what is it that we really want in our life? You know, this is a question I asked myself for years. What do I really want? What do I need to have in my life? What are my goals? What are the things that I'd really like to have? And it took me a long time to realise that actually I only wanted one thing. And I think it's the same thing we all want, which is simply to be happy. In fact, not just to be happy, but to be happy right now. That's all we really want. And in fact, when you think about it, isn't that really what everything else that we're trying to do is what we're trying to achieve? We're trying to get things, have things, do things for the purpose of making us happy. That's all it is. So we're constantly striving and working and trying to figure out how to be happy. But the truth is as well, isn't it, that we really hardly ever are. Now, when you think about it, this is quite strange, because if we really want to be happy, and we're always trying to be happy, why is it that we so seldom are happy? Because there's another thing about happiness. Being happy is actually our biological purpose. Our purpose physically, mentally, and emotionally is to be happy. Because when we're happy, we are at our best. We feel the best. Our body is working the best. Our mind, our brain, they're all working our best when we're happy. And so it serves our biological purpose, which is to be the best that we can be so that we have the greatest chance for survival. So being happy really is the ultimate goal. It's the thing we're all after. So why is it we can't be happy? Why is it we're not living in this happy state all the time? Why aren't we achieving the goal of being happy? Well, if you ask yourself that question, you might come up with the answer, well, I can't be happy because I have so many problems in my life. There are so many things going on in my finances or my relationships or my career that mean I simply can't be happy. I've got all these problems that I have to solve. And when I solve them, then I'll be happy. And the other main reason, which is a bit more subtle, is that somehow we always want things to be different to the way they are. No matter what's going on in our life, no matter how good things seem to be going, we're always thinking, is there more? Is there something else? What else do I need to be doing? So we have this uneasy feeling which stops us from really being happy. And ultimately, this is how we end up spending our life, isn't it? Always trying to solve problems, always trying to get to somewhere else, to where we actually are. And along the way, we might have fleeting moments of happiness, but in general, we're not really that happy. And of course, we're particularly not happy when we get knocked off track, when a problem comes along, when something unexpected shows up in our life that we don't like or don't want to happen. That's immediately knocks us off track and stops us from being happy. And even if things are going pretty well in our own life, there's plenty of things going on in the world, aren't there, that are an excuse or a reason not to be happy. There are all the terrible problems, terrible things going on around the world that we read on the news or we hear from other people. All the doom and gloom predictions about what might happen. These are all things that cloud our thoughts and get our attention and stop us from being happy. Now, all of this really creates a problem. It's like a block, if you like, or a barrier to us being happy, because we stay stuck in a game with rules that we can never win. It's like a game. And the rules are, firstly, I have to solve all of my problems before I can be happy. Now, we know how well that's going to go, because it seems like whenever we overcome problems, more problems show up. And some of our problems don't seem to ever go away. I mean, if we don't have enough money in our life, or if we're not truly happy in our relationship, that can last for years, decades even. So the first rule of the game, if you like, that we've created that means we can never win and we can never be truly happy is that I have to solve all my problems. I have to solve all of the problems of the world before I can be happy. And the second rule, which is more of a belief, but it is a rule, is that we say, well, I can never solve all my problems. I'm always going to have problems. We always expect to have problems. We expect there to be problems in the world. So as I said earlier, what does life become when you play this game with these rules? Life really becomes an experience of fleeting moments of happiness, but most of the time it's just problem, stress, and not being happy. But when I really started to think about this, I realized that the real reason we're not happy is not actually anything to do with our problems. It's not anything to do with what's going on in the world, in reality. In fact, it's got nothing to do with the way we think life is. Because here's the thing, even though there are problems in life, and I'm certainly not here to discount problems and say, well, you just have to ignore them, or you have to change the way you look at them and say, I don't have a problem. It's not about denying that you have problems or things that you have to deal with. It's not about that at all. But it is about realizing that the reality is, the truth is, we all have a lot to be happy about. If we really think about life today, our life experience, and it doesn't matter who we are, the truth is we all have a better experience of life than virtually anybody did throughout human history. You only need to go back 10, 20 or 30 years and think about the things that didn't exist then and have never existed through most of human civilization that we take for granted now. I mean, little things like just being able to pick up a small box and talk to and see anybody in the world instantly. Or what about being able to just turn a knob and fresh water comes out? Now, we don't think about these things, but a few years ago, not that many years ago, if you were to say to somebody, that's something you'll be able to do, they would say, wow, if I could do that, if I didn't have to go down walking every day for a mile with a heavy bucket to collect water, if I didn't have to do that, if I could just get it out of a tap instantly, my life would be transformed. I would be so happy. If I could talk to my loved ones, even see them instantly, no matter where they were in the world, I can't imagine that, but it would make me so happy. That would be so wonderful, rather than missing them and not being able to talk to them and connect with the people I love. So there are just a couple of examples, but if you really think about it, it's endless, isn't it? The richness, the convenience, and the things that should make us happy that we take for granted in the world today, in our life today. So we have a lot to be happy about in our life. And the other thing we have to be happy about, really, the reality is, there's actually a lot more about our life that's good than our problems. It's not like our life is an endless series of problems that we can't function. We have a body. We have a mind. You're listening to this right now. You have these conveniences we've been talking about. We've got all these things. We've got these comforts in our life that mean problems, although they exist, of course they're there, they're just a part of our life. They're not the overwhelming part of our life. Something I often do, which I find really helpful, and you might find it helpful as well, is last thing at night, just before I go to sleep, I ask myself a question. What are 10 things I could be really grateful for and happy about in my life right now. And they're things like the relationships I have, the health that I have, the place where I live, things like that. It's a really useful exercise because it makes you realize that really there's something very strange about the fact we can't be happy. You might like to try that and see how it makes you feel and how it makes you realize that yes, we should be happier a lot more than we actually are. Okay, so for a moment, just getting back to this idea of this game that we've set up where we can never be happy. We can only ever be happy when we achieve something else, in other words, solve our problems or get to somewhere else where we're not right now. We can only be happy when we do those things, and we're never going to be able to do all of those things. Which means we can never win the ultimate game, which is to be happy, which is the thing that we really want. So what's the answer? Why can't we be happy? What's the reason why we stay stuck in this pattern of unhappy thoughts? Well, I used to think it was simply a case of changing your thoughts and just trying to be happy and telling yourself, well, I will be happy, I am happy, but never feeling happy as a result of that. It doesn't really work, does it, trying that? This isn't about not wanting to be happy and not being able to be happy. What it's about, and the reason we stay stuck, is we're not in the habit of being happy. We haven't created in our brain a habit where we will be happy. What this essentially means, and we'll talk about it in a moment, but what this really means is that we want to be happy, but our brain won't let us. Our brain is always looking for excuses for us not to be happy. When you really think about this, you realize how true this is, because imagine, for instance, perhaps you're not happy in your relationship. What is your brain in the habit of telling you? It's in the habit of telling you what all the problems are, what all the reasons are why you can't be happy, what are all the things that you need to fix before you can be happy. It's creating this habit that you're always focusing on what's wrong, or should I say what your brain thinks is wrong. But it's not, your brain is not putting it in perspective. It's not saying to you, yes, well, there's a few things wrong, but hey, aren't you lucky to be in a relationship? Isn't it true that most of the time your relationship goes pretty well? You've got a better relationship than most of the people, or certainly many of the people on the planet. And this is true for money and finance as well. We live in the most abundant time in history. The standard of living that we all have is far better than even the greatest kings throughout history have ever had. The comforts and what we are able to experience in our life. But our brain isn't saying, look at all the things you've got. Look at all the great things you've got. The tap that produces fresh water for you. The phone that enables you to connect with anybody and get any information you want about anything instantly. It's not telling you about those things. It's picking out the problems. It's saying to you, here's something you don't have. Here's something that isn't going the way you want it to be, or isn't happening the way you think you want it to be. So we're in this brain habit of looking at the negative, looking at the problems. And when we don't have problems, if we're in this habit, what our brain will actually do is it will seek out problems. It will seek out things not to be happy about, because we've trained it in this habit to be constantly looking for what's wrong. So the solution really is quite simple, because again, let's think about it. We all want to be happy. Have you ever been in that situation? I know I have, where you want to be happy and you think to yourself, why aren't I happy? I should be. Things are going well in my life. Why do I have this uneasy feeling that I'm not really that happy? And sometimes it's a fear or a worry about the future. Oh, well, I might be happy now, but bad things might happen. This could go wrong. This might happen. So it's almost like we have this guarded feeling, well, I can't be too happy because I don't want to let my guard down in case something bad happens. And that's when you realize, I think, that it's a habit. It's just something we don't want to do. We want to be happy right now. We don't want to have these thoughts that are constantly pointing out to us the reasons why we can't be happy. But we've trained our brain to be in the habit, as I said earlier, of looking for problems rather than looking at what's good in the world. So the solution is quite simple, isn't it? It's really about changing your perspective, changing the way you look at things. Instead of seeing what's wrong with something, start to see what's right with it. But the problem is, if you start to do this, or if you start to employ positive thinking and try and change your thoughts to be positive, you'll know that although it's simple, and you'll also know that it's the way we should operate and what we should do if we want to be happy, we also know it's not that easy, is it? And the reason it's not easy, it's because it's not a habit. Any new habit is not easy to start with. You know, if you change your diet, if you want to lose weight or be healthier, you know you have to get into a new habit of eating differently. And it's really difficult to start with. You're doing something unfamiliar. You're doing something uncomfortable. And your brain and your body are saying to you, hey, this is weird. I don't like this. Go back to the old way. I'm missing the foods that I used to have. I want those again. We often call those addictions. But whatever it is, we know with a new habit, it's going to take a period of transition where it's going to be uncomfortable and where we're going to have to put in some thought and conscious effort to make that shift. And we also know that we're going to fall down from time to time. A lot of the time, particularly to start with, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to do it wrong. We're going to fall back into the old habit, which gets us what we don't want rather than what we do want. So retraining your brain, getting into the habit of being happy, does take some time and effort. So how do we do this? How do we change this habit? What really works? Well, as I said earlier, we know that just telling ourselves, well, I'm happy now, we know that doesn't really work, because the problem is you can't really fake it. It doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself a lie, it's always going to be a lie. If you're not happy, you're not happy. And if you keep saying to yourself, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and you're not, your brain is just going to go, look, just stop this. Why are you telling yourself a lie over and over? And in fact, what you're really doing when you do that is you're simply reinforcing the lie. You're saying to yourself, I'm happy. No, I'm not. I'm happy, but of course I'm not. I'm happy. I'm lying to myself. So you're reinforcing the lie. It's not going to change. You're not going to become happy by saying that you are over and over. So how do we create a happiness habit? How do we get to the place where we're truly happy and grateful for what we have, rather than seeing problems and seeing what we don't have? And of course, this isn't to negate the problems. This isn't to just create this idea that we're going to ignore them or forget about them or push them away. That's not going to help solve those problems. But the interesting thing is that when we accept happiness now, we're in a much better place to actually deal with our problems, to actually come up with real solutions. If you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, you'll know why that is. It's because when you're happy, you're activating a different brain state. You're activating your creative brain, which is where all of your problem-solving abilities actually are. So the only place you really solve problems is from a place of happiness. And as I've said in previous episodes, solving your problems won't make you happy, but being happy will solve your problems. So anyway, coming back to the how do we make this new habit? If it's not about just telling ourselves something over and over and hoping that one day we'll believe it, that we are happy when we're not. If it's not that, then what is it? Well, the new habit of being happy right now and in as many moments as we can and making it our dominant state rather than just occasional fleeting moments. The first thing, and really the most important thing, is to let go of expectations. Let go of thinking that anything needs to be a certain way in the future for you to be happy. And what this really means, in reality, is to actually stop thinking about the future so much. Start to focus more on the present and start to see what's around you and say to yourself what it says in the Bible, actually, I'm not going to worry about the future. I'm not even going to think about the future. And in fact, the more you understand how your brain works and that your creative brain is designed to make your future good and every moment good in your life, if you just allow it to do that, then you won't need to worry about the future. But the first step is to stop even thinking about the future. We've got so ingrained in our habits and in our thinking that we have to set goals, we have to plan, we have to prepare for the future. But most of the time, if you really think about it, that doesn't really work. The future doesn't turn out the way you want it to or the way you expect it to. It turns out the way it turns out. So we can be setting all of these goals and we never achieve them, or achieve very few. Or the goals we do set, the things that we think will make us happy, even if we get them, they might not make us happy. And other things might come along. Many people work all of their life trying to save up for their retirement and build a nest egg, and sometimes it gets taken away from them. A disaster or, very often a divorce. A couple is working towards financial independence and then they divorce, and as part of that, their finances get upset and they no longer have the money they were expecting or wanting. So unexpected things happen all of the time to upset our plans and our goals. So the future is going to turn out the way the future is going to turn out. And the truth is, it's probably got very little to do with the goals that you set, because most people don't achieve their goals. And that's not a criticism, it's just the way it is, and it's more of a comment on what goal setting actually is. And I've covered this in previous episodes as to why goal setting doesn't really work. It's not an effective strategy. So if goal setting doesn't work, if trying to plan for the future doesn't really work because there are so many unknown variables, then you might as well just enjoy the now. You might as well just enjoy this moment and say to yourself, whatever is going to happen in the future is going to happen in the future. And as it says in the Bible, give no thought for tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Do not worry about what you will eat, drink, or wear. It's all going to be provided for you. And all that is saying, forget the future, forget the planning, forget the expectation, because so much of what stops us from being happy is this expectation. I need that to happen for me to be happy. I need to have this thing for me to be happy. And it's never going to work out that way. Let go of the expectation. Just know that whatever's going to happen is going to be right for you. And letting go of that expectation really means bringing your attention back to this present moment and finding as many ways as you can to appreciate what's going on in this present moment. These questions that we can ask ourselves. What's great about my life right now? What's really great about my life right now? What are the things that I've got in my life that 10 years ago I didn't have, and I'm really grateful that I have these things right now? It could be the relationship. It could be some of your material possessions. It could be your position in your career or in your business. Things that you have right now. The attitudes that you have right now. The knowledge, the wisdom. Even the fact that you're listening to me right now shows that you're interested in being on the path to find out how you can be the best that you can be. Think of how much you've learnt, how much wisdom and knowledge and experience you've gained that is really helping you to have a much better experience of life. And if you look out at the world, think, instead of focusing on the problems, in other words, switch off the news, instead of thinking about problems in the world, think about how much good is in the world. You only need to walk down a street and smile at somebody else to get a big smile back. Most people are not aggressive, unpleasant, wanting to fight a war. Most people are kind, loving, and they want to be happy as well. So we need to start looking around in our world, how clean the air is, how clean our water is, how clean our environment is, actually, how abundant this world is, full of life, full of amazing things happening. Look at your body, what's going on there? It's incredible. And again, you might like to try that exercise late at night or first thing in the morning, or really any time, you can just take a quiet moment and say, what's amazing about my life? What's great about my life? And what's great about this world that we live in that makes me realize I live in the best time in history. I have the privilege of being here right now. And the other thing is that will help with this habit of seeing the reality of the world and what's good about it and the reality of your life and what's good about that and what you should be happy about, is to say, if you're looking at a problem, if there's something that's causing you some tension, there's some conflict in your life, something that is not the way you would like it to be, ask yourself, what's good about this? How is this helping me? What's the lesson here? How is this going to make me a better person by experiencing this? How is it going to make me stronger and better in the future? How will I be able to look back from the future at what's happening right now and think, I'm so glad that happened because of what it taught me, of how it made me better and how it made my life able to be so much better. So all of these things, letting go of expectations, not thinking about the future, appreciating the present moment, seeing the positive in everything that's going on, all of these things are going to change your brain state. They're going to change your habit, your brain's habit, from instead of focusing on problems and negativity, of seeing the wider picture of your life and of the world, of how much there is to be grateful for, of how many reasons we have on a moment-by-moment basis to be happy. And the more you do this, the more you shift this habit, the more you'll find you'll naturally not just become a more positive person. And remember, this isn't about fake positive thinking, but it's being a more expressive positive person, which is actually who you really are. If we think about the people we really admire, the people we gravitate to, aren't they generally people who are happy? Aren't they people who are positive and say, no matter what's going on, I know things are good and I know things will be better. I feel good. We like to be around people who feel good. The conclusion I've come to is that, like everything else, being happy in life is simply a habit. And we've just learnt the wrong habit, a bad habit of not being happy. And of course, bad things happen. I know that. We all get knocked off track from time to time. I do as well. But when we realise that everything has a good side, everything happens for a positive reason, we do live in a perfect world, in a perfect universe, that there is far more in our life and in this world to be happy about than not be happy about, then we can finally choose and make a part of ourselves this new habit of being happy right now, of letting go of the worry and the stress and the negative thoughts that just keep rocking around in our brain and keep us trapped. We can let go of all of those things. They no longer become a dominant part of our life. And when we do that, we can stop the chasing. We can stop the game that we've been playing all our life of chasing after the one thing we've always wanted, and we can have it right now, and that is to be happy. This is Liam Naden signing off. Thanks for watching. But before you go, there's some action to take. Hit the subscribe and like buttons and leave your thoughts in a comment below. I'd love your feedback. And if you have friends who you think would benefit from this, please share it with them. Thanks again for your support, and stay tuned for more from me, Liam Naden. And remember, you can only reach your full potential when you let yourself off the hook.